Good morning. Hi, my name is Edie Stringfellow. I am the Director of Diversity and Inclusion with the Massachusetts Biotechnology Council. Welcome. Thank you for joining us. And this panel is on what's next, knowing your value and defining your vision. Today, joining me, I have Matt McSherry, Head of Global Talent Acquisition at Alexion Pharmaceuticals. Also joining us is Kate Coleman, Senior Director and Global Talent Acquisition Pharma Services Group with Thermo Fisher Scientific, and also the one and only Aaron Cowig, Chief People Officer with Nimbus Therapeutics. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Edie.
Pleasure to be here.
And if each and every one of you wouldn't mind, if you can give us a brief introduction of yourself and share a quick elevator speech on your company and its mission in the life sciences industry.
Yes. So good morning, and thank you so much for the opportunity to join you today. I am Kate Cullum, as you mentioned, and I oversee for the Pharma Services Group of Thermo Fisher Scientific. And our elevator speech is, the patient is waiting. We have a mission of zero deviation, making sure that the product gets out the door, making sure that we keep it safe and keep families safe. Mm-hmm. So our mission is to bring in the best talent as well, and to help you become a part of our mission. So to that end, we look forward to the meeting.
Thank you for joining us, Kate. Aaron.
Sure. Hi, I'm Aaron Cowig, Chief People Officer at Nimbus Therapeutics. I recently joined. This is my second week. Nimbus is a biotech. We're based in Cambridge. And we are pioneers when it comes to structure-based drug discovery. We currently have one product in the clinic, a program focused on psoriasis. And then we have several preclinical programs as well, focused on oncology, immunology, metabolism. And really our goal is to design breakthrough medicines for patients. And we also have an incredible team. So really strong culture. We are purposefully small so that we can remain agile and very collaborative, which leads to great innovation, we believe.
Thank you for that, Aaron. Matt, would you give us a quick elevator speech and tell us a little bit about you?
Sure, happy to. So thanks, Edie. So it's great to be here to be part of the panel. So as you mentioned, my name is Matt McSherry, and I lead global talent acquisition for Alexion Pharmaceuticals. And we're a mid-sized biotechnology company. We're headquartered in Boston, but we are probably globally about 3,500 employees. So we have operations in 50 different countries. And where we operate is in the rare disease and devastating condition space. I mean, effectively, our mission is to really transform the lives of people affected by rare diseases and devastating conditions. So again, super excited to be here, to be part of the conversation. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Well, let's go back to Aaron for a second, because you're probably the newest person in your role, but not newest to the game. So tell us a little bit about your role and depth. What will be your first priority when it comes to sourcing talent?
So sure, happy to. My role, as you can probably imagine, is I'm responsible for all people and talent functions and processes. And so thinking about recruitment and sourcing is a big part of that. My first priority is to fill the critical roles that we have left for this year, obviously. But beyond that, it's really taking the time to understand our current recruitment processes and partners. Having done this for a while, I do think that, especially when it comes to attracting diverse talent specifically, your process is so important. And that can mean anything from technology and how you think about kind of reducing bias throughout the sourcing and screening stages of recruitment. I think there's also, and it can be as simple as process in terms of how you train your hiring managers and train your recruiters and hold them accountable to that. But I also think external partnerships are extremely important. So I'm trying to spend some time digging into that. External partners, search firms, search agencies, executive recruiting can really expand your reach, particularly when you're a small organization. But it's important that you have the right partners and they hold themselves accountable to your expectations for diverse slates and high quality talent. So I'm trying to figure out how to leverage what we have, where we need to build maybe some new partnerships. And that's where I'm going to start.
Matt, Alexion is an industry leader in research and development. Can you tell me about some of other non-R&D on-ramps to Alexion?
Sure. Yeah. So we have 5 approved medicines across 7 different disease areas. And so what that means is we're a fully integrated biotechnology company. And effectively, we discover, develop, manufacture, commercialize our medicines. And, like Aaron, we work with a lot of external partners, and that's critical to the work that we do, but we have opportunities across the board. I mentioned, 3,500 employees globally, about 60% of which are here in the United States, many of which are in the Northeast and the greater Boston area. And so, we have in the R&D space, think about basic discovery research and translational research. So these are scientists, people with white lab coats in labs, running experiments, testing hypotheses, and then all the way through the drug development process. But even beyond that, you'll have positions in operations and manufacturing. Now, for us, much of that is actually outside the United States. It's in Ireland, but there are those opportunities that do exist within the United States. And then further downstream, commercialization. So sales, marketing, market access, pricing, reimbursement, commercial operations. And then lastly, across all of the enabling functions. So whether that's technology or human resources, which is the group that I'm a part of, finance, communications, corporate affairs, government affairs. So all of those we have within the organization, and all of those are represented in the Boston area as well.
Wow, that's amazing. Thank you, Matt. Kay, as we just heard from Matt and Aaron, who are with biopharma companies, Thermo Fisher is in a different space than in life sciences. When looking for talent, where are the areas of growth at Thermo Fisher, and where will you need talent for?
So thank you for the question. Thermo Fisher is a global company, as you know, and our life sciences is a huge piece of our growth, but also even the medical device and the equipment piece of healthcare is a huge growth area for us as well. But when we talk about talent, Edie, I would like to tell you that we're looking at it very differently than we have in the past. We're looking for problem solvers. We're not looking, and here's the other thing, and I think that the audience will want to hear this. We're not looking to keep people forever. We know that people are going to move on. We're wanting to be a part of the journey. And so when we're looking at talent, and then oddly enough, I was just looking at our GMs this morning and where they come from. They come from econ degrees. They come from supply chain. They come from biochemistry. They come from biotechnology. So it's a pretty eclectic group, and we will continue to look at talent that way, be it diversity in ethnicity or diversity in majors. It does not matter. Right now we have 2,200 jobs open just in pharma services group. We have about 10,000 across Thermo Fisher. So what I would say is we're looking for that talent that they're the problem solvers, that they're the critical thinkers. That's the type of talent that we're looking for. And again, I would say we're not looking to keep this talent forever. We know there will be other things come up. We just want to be a part of that journey.
Wow, I haven't heard of it that way before. Thank you for positioning it, and then also taking on it from a different perspective. You really don't hear that often. Usually people say that they're looking for the top and the best and the brightest and the most excellent, highest graduate. And now we're looking at impact.
Well, you know what? Actually, I just coined this yesterday. Is we're not looking for winners and losers. We're looking for we're looking for learners versus winners. We're looking for lifelong learners, and that's what I think that we haven't thought about in the past. Is we're looking for those lifelong learners. And I love it when I'm working with hiring managers and they tell me, so well, they're probably not going to stay more than 2 or 3 years. No, they're probably not. And that's okay. We want that brain power for the time that they're here. And by the way, we want to help you get wherever you want to be. And so we are just looking at a different approach to this because our talent is looking for different things.
That is amazing. Now we're talking about talent, new talent, and today we have many HBCU undergraduate and graduate students in attendance. What are some key insights that you would like to share with them that you feel are critical to securing a successful career pathway in the life sciences post undergraduate and graduate level?
Just to add to what Kay was mentioning about, learning and being a lifelong learner, I think it's, thinking about earlier career talent, whether that's academic talent or postgraduate. I think a lot of it is just open-mindedness and curiosity. Most career paths are not linear. Some are, but most of them are just this collection of experiences. And I think a lot of that is what Kay said, is around just being curious, being open-minded, sort of being open to learning and sort of adapting to and adjusting to new ways of working. I think a couple of the things, as I think back, things that have certainly served me well, and the better part of my career has been in talent acquisition. So I've had the opportunity to sort of interact with people that are making these life-changing decisions when they move from a company or join a company and things like that. So I think, for the early career talent space, or in the early career talent space, I would never underestimate the value of the network. And this is a great opportunity where people will have an opportunity to come together, to interact with others, to hear from others, to hear about their career journeys, to learn from them, but they immediately become part of their network. And so if you think about whether it's you're just entering the workforce or even further down the line, when you're thinking about making moves from one company to another, and most will, is just really being mindful of the network and the people that you have opportunities to interact with all along the way. And then the other thing is, particularly in the early career space, is just internships. They're so valuable right now because they really do differentiate folks. I mean, it gives people an opportunity to come in and explore, to learn, to be curious, to test the waters, but at the same, and build new skills and capabilities, but also you get to build your network. And every company approaches this a little bit differently, but when you think about, and many companies look at this very strategically, and so where you have people that might be coming into internship roles, they view that as a pipeline of future talent. And Alexion is no different. And there are a lot of great success stories there where people have come in, they may have come back for a second internship, and now they're in full-time roles at Alexion. So I think those are the things that come to mind, is just the curiosity, the open-mindedness, the value of the network, and the value of gaining those experiences. And at this stage in someone's career, that could be around the internship. So
thank you, Matt. Aaron.
I think Matt covered it well, but and I agree with you on the power of your network, particularly in biotech. It is so important to build your network, and biopharma in general, I would say, just because it is a pretty small interconnected community, and you can often find really great opportunities just based on who you know. But additionally, I would say some key insights. You first and foremost, when you think of life sciences, a lot of people do think of STEM kind of scientific roles, but as evidenced by all of us sitting here on this panel, you can have a very successful career in life sciences and biopharma, not being a scientist. So there's a number of different ways to think about getting into industry. And then if you are a scientist, the thing that's really great about being in life sciences and biopharma specifically is you can decide to be on the bench, you can decide to be in the lab, you can decide that you want to lead a project, you can decide that you want to lead a team, you can decide that you want to take your scientific background and go into regulatory or to dip your toe into business development. It opens up a number of doors for you as you think about both your early career and your longer term career. So that's something that I always like to remind people about as they're thinking about kind of where they want to build and develop their careers.
Excellent. Now, Kay, as you were saying, there's a lot of openings at Thermo Fisher right now. Let's talk to some of your potential prospects for some of those roles.
Yeah, so I would tell you, if I'm early in career, this talent tends to overthink that first job. Don't overthink it. Just get the job, because the job's going to find you. And you know what? You have a long, long career ahead of you. One thing I would do is I would try to find those rotational programs where you can move around and see different parts of the company. That will help you decide where you want to be long term. The other thing is too, what I wouldn't worry about is having a long resume, having deep, research and such as that, because we understand that that's not going to happen. The other thing I want to make sure that early in career talent understands is a GPA is not going to make or break us. You know what? We like the people at the top of the food chain on GPAs. We also like those in the middle. And we also understand some of us play that first year. And so it's not going to be a deal breaker for us. Again, what we're looking for are those lifelong learners that want to come in, that want to extend their career and perhaps go into different areas. They may start out in biopharma and end up in gene therapy. We love that. We love those type of folks and those forward-thinking individuals. So what my counsel would be is try to find those rotational programs, and I think that will benefit them, and in the long run, benefit Thermo Fisher.
Thank you, Kay. Everyone, we've heard much said about how the future of work is changing rapidly, especially during this pandemic. What does that mean at your firm, and what skills will be necessary to thrive in a future of this type of work? Let's start with Erin.
Sure, I was just going to jump in. There's a couple of things that come to mind. Some of them we've already touched on. I think curiosity, problem solving is really important. Picking up on what Kay said, I do think in this new world, this idea of being a generalist, so getting a lot of different experiences, creating kind of breadth gives you the ability to pivot as the work environment, and whether that's internally or externally around you changes. And so that's one thing I found really helpful even early on in my career, was getting a number of different experiences early on, and it just gives you options. The other thing that I would say is communication and inclusive leadership is incredibly important. There is so much going on right now. Employees and leaders are just, the lines between work and life are probably as blurred as they ever have been. And as a leader, you need to be listening, you need to be communicating clearly. As an individual contributor, as someone coming into the workforce, you need to really be thinking about where your colleagues are and what they're working on and how they're balancing, because everyone, I think there's a greater need to meet people where they are, and to realize that people are carrying both professional and personal baggage and burdens at times, and that requires a different skill set, both as a leader, but also just as a colleague, in terms of how you show up for work every day.
Thank you, Erin. Matt, shed some insight from your perspective on this.
It's such a great, it really is the $64,000 question that I think we're all thinking through right now. I think on the one hand, we've all had to adapt and adjust to new ways of working, and that's been, pandemic driven. And I don't know that any of us has a sense of what things will look like post-pandemic. But we're working through those things as an organization, as every organization is, and to varying degrees. And some of that is thinking about how people, how teams, how organizations work together. Erin said it really well. I think that there is a very clear, not shift, because I think many organizations were already doing this, but I think it has accelerated this, is thinking about employees' preferences, thinking about the workforce and the things that work best for them. And so I think companies are trying to anticipate what that looks like. And so, and they may be adjusting their ways of working and thinking differently about talent, thinking differently about where talent needs to be located. And companies are, across the spectrum, and you've heard, things that are very public from some of the larger tech companies that have said, we are effectively going to be moving to a very distributed workforce. And then you may have others at the other end of the spectrum that might be smaller, where, they're building companies, they're building cultures. And part of that secret sauce is that co-location and sort of where the innovation and the team building actually happens. And then you have everything in between. And we're thinking about all of those things at Alexion. And I don't know that we have the answer yet. What I will say is I think that there's been incredible support for the employees across the organization. Going back to what Erin said, is just, we are all, in a way that none of us, I don't think, has really ever had to sort of balance, sort of blur those lines between work and between life. And so it really is thinking about how do you support your employees, provide that flexibility from a looking ahead, those capabilities. I think we've said a lot of those. I think it's learning. I think it's innovation. I think it's adaptability. I think it's open-mindedness. There are other things that are probably less behavioral and more like technical skills that, I think, and that's digital. I think, and a great example is think about, like, one day we were in the office, the next day we weren't in the office, and I'm sure we were all thinking about, oh my gosh, how are we going to make this work? And a lot of it's sort of like, and you still sometimes to some degree scratch your head about like how quickly, many of us were able to make this transition. And a lot of that was enabled through digital and technology.
Mm-hmm.
So looking ahead, my guess is that there will be more of that. If there's more workplace flexibility, in thinking about employees' preferences, that will be enabled by technology. And so I think that's a skill area where my guess is that there will continue to be investments by companies, but there will also be demand from companies for that.
Wow, this is a lot to take in. This usually isn't the same information that you get over and over. So thank you guys for being very candid about how you think it will.
Yeah, Edie, can I speak to that as well?
Yes, absolutely.
To that question, yeah. If there was ever a situation set up for this generation, the pandemic has gotten us there. We are actually learning from them. They were already there. They were already digitally savvy. They had already positioned themselves for workplace flexibility. They are, this is the most open-minded group of individuals that probably will be entering the workforce that we've seen ever. And so, if there's anything that we have learned is, this place is made for this early career talent. The other thing is, there will be those groups from corporate that can work from home or from Amsterdam if they wish. However, we also have that hands-on talent that's working at our sites. And that's where we really focused on keeping them safe so that we can get the product out the door. So I think the biggest thing that we've learned is, listen, we're following the lead of this early talent. They were there before we were. The second thing is making sure that they're safe. The other thing is that open-mindedness of working in an environment that is just so very different than it was even a decade ago. And so I love the idea of how this talent is bringing us together and teaching us almost more than we're ever going to teach them. I love that.
Sure.
Aaron, can you elaborate on what Kay just said in regards to the talent and the pandemic reaction to everything?
Yeah, what I would add is, we are absolutely dealing with and have the ability to leverage a generation coming into the workforce that is extremely agile in terms of technology and how work gets done, which is phenomenal. I do think that as I think about the kind of the skills and how to make the most of that, there is a degree of influence that needs to happen. Where I think with people coming in early career, there is this kind of innate capability especially when it comes to technology and flexibility because of how they've grown up. But when you come into the workforce, you also realize that there's a degree of influence that comes with that because, you're not going to walk into an environment where everyone kind of intuitively understands how to do things online, for example. So I do think, again, it comes back to those core components of communication, ability to influence, ability to explain, to make sure that what you bring, and based on your experience and based on where we all are because of this pandemic, that everyone can kind of move forward together, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. Matt, do you care to respond to that too? Because you have presence throughout the world, and the pandemic had different effects throughout the world on different workforces and different companies. Can you tell us how you were able to adapt to the changes in multi-districts across your platforms?
Yeah, I think you're right. I think, the pandemic has progressed differently across different countries, different regions across the globe. For us as an organization, I think a lot of it has really been empowering the employees and the leaders in the various countries, in the various regions, obviously there was not a one size fits all. I think first and foremost, our priority, as most companies, companies' priority was to, ensure the safety of your employees, ensure the safety of your patients, of your product supply, of the larger ecosystem. And I think we've done an amazing job of doing that, and we'll continue to do that. But it's different. It's been different in Ireland. It's been different in Switzerland. It's different in Australia and Japan than it is in the US. And so a lot of what we've done is really around connectivity. And that goes back to one of the things that Aaron said before about communication and inclusive leadership. This is effectively how we have all been working for the most part. There are certainly employees that are in manufacturing sites, in laboratories, where the role actually dictates that they need to be on site. That's not work that can be done virtually. But thinking about how you can sort of in a really inclusive way connect with people through technology. So that's, we've all been adjusting to those things, and it's been a learning process. Some of the things that we've been thinking about just for our own employees and particularly for our leaders is, as we continue to do this, certainly, until there is more openness to get out and about and return to sites, but even beyond that, there still may be increased workplace flexibility. Is how do we equip our managers around meeting etiquette, around standards, around sort of cultural norms, around connectivity, around bringing people together, around inclusiveness. And there's sort of this really interesting dynamic, certainly that we've experienced, where you're working virtually, you're on a Zoom call and you see all the little screens, and there's sort of this really interesting like intimacy that you might not have had before. And there are trade-offs there, of course. But I think that there are a lot of upsides that are really where our hands have been forced through the pandemic, and sort of trying to think about, okay, sort of post-pandemic, how do we maintain some of those things? And so for us, it really is about, and we're working through this right now. We don't have the answers or all the answers, but it's, how do we equip our workforce, to think differently, to interact with each other? How do we provide training and learning opportunities to our leaders and managers to, again, be really great inclusive leaders? And so much of that comes back to communication and connectivity. So things that we're thinking about. I don't know that we're unique there. My guess is that every company is working through these things, but I'm super proud of the work that we've done. So
I would say, the other thing, as I think about Nimbus, we, a lot of our drug discovery, a lot of the work that we do is virtual. It is highly networked. And so we were, I think, a little bit better positioned to kind of step into this fully remote work environment. But that being said, and reflecting back on that, I do think that there are companies who are already on this path, and there are companies who will stay on this path as well. So, I think in some cases, it's not how do we go back to what it was pre-pandemic, but how do we continue to build from here? So I think, again, depending on the kind of company that you're thinking about, this may be just the way a lot of companies work going forward.
Okay. Well, I'm going to ask a very deep question right now, and I'm going to pose it to Kay first, but I'm going to give her a chance to think about the answer, because out of the United States Bureau of Labor Statistics just released information that in September 2020, 865,000 women made the difficult decision to leave the economy because of the difficult balance of career and family. Kay, if you would just take a moment to talk about how Thermo Fisher is adapting to the new normal, to this new information, looking at work-life flexibility as a priority, seeing that you probably have the largest number of employees out of the panelists today.
Yeah. Oddly enough, I'm a recipient of that. My fiance, she decided to stay home because she couldn't, she either had to take care of homeschooling, or she had to work. And so fortunately we were in a situation where she could choose to stay home. And I think that there are, and we know the numbers show that there are a lot of women that have made, and men, I would say that, where I worked formerly, there was as many men that stayed home taking care of their family as there were women. And that's in Arkansas, which oddly is interesting. But I will tell you, we have thought about that. And there's a couple of programs that we're working on that I wouldn't care to share publicly right now. But I will say that it is a form of on-ramping, making sure that there is a path back to the office or the site as it happens to be. The other thing is that educational assistance. We are living in a breakneck world. I mean, it is moving so fast, and your talent and your knowledge comes outdated so quickly. So how can we help individuals that did decide to stay home and take care of families? How can we help them ramp back up quickly? So that's, I would tell you some of the construct around it. The other thing is again, we're looking for lifelong learners. We're looking for problem solvers or critical thinking. And I will tell you, somebody that's staying at home managing 3 kids and getting homeschooling done and getting the house taken care of, those are our favorite people. So we welcome that talent. So, those are the people that get things done.
Do you have any type of support programs for single parents?
We do, through our healthcare and such. Yes, we do. But we did even before,
Okay.
even before the pandemic. It was nothing new. I mean, we're a company that's focused on well-being. So we're gonna, I mean, and I would assume that the panelists that you have here, we're all focused on well-being, be it single parents, be it parents that are taking care of their own parents. It's just a different world today, Edie. And I'll tell you the other thing is too, this is a world full of information. It's not that people can't get information. It's how do you synthesize information? How do you drill it down and then do something with it? And so those are the things that we're looking at to, with all of this information we have, how can we best serve the talent that left the company in order to take care of families? Be it men, women, doesn't matter. Who are those people and how can we serve them?
Well, I would like to say thank you for your fiance. It had to have been such a difficult choice for you and your family to make. And we're going to come back to this to give you time to think about it. But what does returnships look like post-pandemic? So give you time to think about that. And I'm going to go to Matt to see how are they adapting to the new normal with work-life flexibility being a huge demand right now.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. I was on a call yesterday talking about this very thing, and again, trying to anticipate, the future of work. But a lot of it is along the lines of what Kay had mentioned. A lot of it is flexibility. It is, there's a reality that as we've all adjusted, there's sort of this informality that now exists that might not have existed before. And, technology doesn't work, or a cat or a dog jumps on your lap, or, one of your children comes bursting into the room. And so, and we're all there. And so I think because of that, there's more empathy than there probably was in the past for that. We are all people that are living lives, both professional and personally. I think a lot of it has come back to workplace flexibility and going back to what somebody said earlier around meeting employees where they are. And so, there are examples of, hey, I'm sorry, I cannot join you for that 8 o'clock call in the morning. In the past, the reality is they probably couldn't before because somebody might have responsibility for taking their children to school or any number of things. And I think there's much more acceptance and openness now to sort of, again, meeting employees where they are. And, and it could be, you're in some of your core meetings, but you're online early or you're online late, and there's a flexibility there. So it's giving people that flexibility to sort of, figure out sort of to work where, to adjust their work style to what works for them. So that I think the flexibility piece is key. The other things that we're talking about is, and there were some, pre-pandemic that did this phenomenally well, but it's thinking differently about, is it job share? Is it part-time? Is it the gig economy that offers more flexibility, and thinking differently about your workforce? And so, those are things that we're thinking about. But I think the biggest thing that we've seen, particularly over the course of the past 8 months, that I'm sure will continue is the workplace flexibility. And again, really thinking about, employees' preferences and meeting them where they are.
Aaron, what's going on at Nimbus to the best of your ability? How are you guys looking at this?
Yeah, well, as I mentioned before, Nimbus, we're a small organization. One thing I love about Nimbus is just we've been really creative about how do we, kind of using that gig economy, thinking about what's the expertise we need, whether, do we build it internally, do we get it externally? And that's created a degree of flexibility with our workforce. And so for us, it's not so much, I think we already do a really great job of meeting people where they are in terms of allowing people to work in a way that makes sense for them, allowing teams to collaborate in a way that's most effective. What we've been thinking about is how do we keep people engaged and connected to the work, to the company, because that's so much of what we say is our special sauce, are those relationships and the trust that's built as you're working side by side. And so how do you replicate that? And then also being really thoughtful about, there are those of us who have kids at home and are juggling families. And so that's what work-life balance means to us. But we have a lot of people who, the social connections they have at Nimbus and have at work are really important, and recognizing that in a way, people have lost that. So how do we, we try to be really thoughtful about pulling employees together, giving people the opportunity to kind of informally communicate, to still have fun together and to still get to enjoy each other as people, because I think that is what, maintaining that is just as important as moving the work and the programs forward.
Excellent, excellent. And then we're talking about workplace flexibility. And then also let's talk about what life science ecosystems look like in this country, because we still have to focus on that we are planted somewhere. And we do need R&D, and we do need these ecosystems to thrive and be connected to the government, to academia, to research institutions. And there are many life science ecosystems in our country. You have California, New York, New Jersey, Atlanta, Texas, to name a few. Why should historically Black colleges and university students consider coming to the greater Boston area? Let's take Matt first on this one.
Up first. I'm probably biased because I'm in the Boston area. I started my career in life sciences in the San Francisco Bay Area, and I lived there for about 15 years. So there's an amazing ecosystem there, and others that you mentioned. When I think about Boston, and I'll try to say this with sort of, with humility, is that I think it's certainly one of, if not the hub for scientific innovation in the world. And you think about, to your point, this amazing ecosystem of the academic centers and sort of the partnerships with all those that are part of the ecosystem, payers, providers, but then also just this concentration of life sciences companies that run the spectrum from the small, really well-funded VC-backed startups that might be 30, 50 individuals, through the mid-sized companies, through, large multinational companies. And, Kay obviously talked a little bit more about Thermo Fisher, but there are, when you think about corporate brands, Pfizer, Novartis, sort of, names that are recognizable across the globe. Each of them has a presence, or many of them have a presence in the greater Boston area. And what that means is it just provides opportunity, it provides choice, and everybody, for everybody, people will make their decisions around, I thrive in small, or I might thrive in large. But you'll have that opportunity, and so, one of the great things about the greater Boston area is, again, no shortage of opportunities. It's thriving, it's growing. It continues, and obviously, Edie, this probably better than anybody, just given sort of the work within MassBio around, this is an amazing, thriving ecosystem that even through the pandemic continues to thrive and grow. And so, I think all of that comes back to there's so many opportunities, and it provides choice. Kay mentioned it earlier, that where you start your career is not likely where you're going to end your career. And there are so many opportunities for people to get exposed to different things. And so for that, I think, Boston is one of the most amazing places. If this is an industry, that you're passionate about, and you can come and thrive here.
Nimbus, Aaron, what's going on there?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with what Matt said. I mean, I think, personally, one of the best decisions I ever made from a career perspective was accepting that first job in life sciences and seeing where it took me. And I had experience in a lot of different industries before taking a life sciences role. But I would say, in addition to what Matt said, Boston is, as a city, it's a relatively small city, all considered, if you think about like New York and Chicago, and it is very, there is a community here. As a woman of color, I think about the other professionals of color I've met in Boston, and it takes a while. I mean, I think Boston, let's be honest, there is a reputation that Boston has for not necessarily being welcome or being segregated in terms of how communities kind of interact. And but what I've found being here for the last 20 years is there is a very strong network and community of professionals of color. There are organizations like the Partnership, for example, based in Boston, started in Boston, dedicated to the development of professionals of color. And having gone through that program, those opportunities just kind of open the doors. And you feel like not only do you have support from a professional perspective, but you also have support from a personal perspective, which is really important. Not to say that we don't still have a lot of work to do, but I think Boston, if you think about it, Boston is a progressive city and a progressive state. And we've led on a lot of really important social issues, marriage equality, healthcare. And I think we're continuing to do the work. So kind of stepping outside of the, the industry realm, as you think about all of the amazing benefits that Matt said, because we are a hub for scientific innovation. We have great hospitals, great academic institutions, but on a personal level, I think, as I think about the social issues we're dealing with today, right? Police brutality, racial inequality, and inequities. We have a Black police commissioner for the Boston PD. We have a Black commissioner of the Cambridge Police Department. We have a woman of color who is our Suffolk County DA, and they are working together to make sure that this city gets to where it needs to be, so that we can attract the sort of talent that we need, which is diverse talent, in order to continue to fuel our pipeline and our industry. So I just wanted to say that, because I think it's just so important as we think about what's in it, what's here in Boston, particularly for HBCU students. I think there is more here than there has been in a long time.
I agree. I think that we should do some type of co-branded commercial with biotech in Boston, almost like a Buick commercial. Like, have you been to Boston lately? And things have changed. We're still Boston, but you have you here, me here, Matt, Kay. You have so many different people that are adding to that, to the narrative, to change the story of how Boston is presented and its offerings and the people in the communities here. And Kay, I'd like to ask you, because you have so many sites within the United States, what would be the selling point for HBCU students to come and anchor themselves in the Boston area?
Well, I'm not going to state the obvious, the Patriots and the Red Sox, and I'm not even from
that
Boston.
Might turn some people off. That might turn some people off.
That's why I said I wasn't going to state the obvious.
Being a Patriots fan myself, but.
Yeah, you know what? I've been in talent acquisition for about 15 years, and I will tell you that there's good people everywhere. And I come to Boston by choice, because I can live anywhere in the world, and I choose Boston. This is actually my second stint here. But when you talk about an ecosystem, you talk about the education, the job opportunities. When you go out on Friday nights, you're going to learn just by osmosis. And I think that that's probably one of the things that I did miss when I was at a smaller town, was the educational nuance that goes on just in going down to get your Starbucks. I absolutely love that. And the other thing is too, I think, Boston's just such a clean, wonderful city. I've loved it all my life. But the idea that within 6 hours you can be in the UK, you can have a direct flight out to California, you can have, you can be on your way to Belize. I mean, like, it just has everything that you want. Notwithstanding, it's a very ecumenical area. Everybody's welcome here. And by the way, we have about 14,000 roles open in life sciences in Boston right now. So we have room for everybody. So when I tell you, come start your career with us, but you're probably not going to end in Boston. So that's the good thing. But what I would also say is, listen, do not cut yourself short. I've been in an oil rig town of 18,000 and love the people. I've been in Boston. I've been in Chicago. I've had opportunities I should have never had coming out of a small town in Arkansas. And I'm just so grateful to be here. And I would say, come let us help you start your career is what I would say.
That is excellent for you to say, because to piggyback off of that, and not to promote MassBio, but to let our viewers know right now that Massachusetts Biotechnology Council represents 1,300 organizations, life sciences, biopharma, manufacturing, processing, venture capital. It's so many different great things that's going on in Massachusetts right now. And for those who are looking to enter the workforce and considering Massachusetts, please go to our website, massbio.org/careers, and you will see about 1,000 job openings right here, right now, from our different members. And you can also go to their websites to see roles that they have not put on our website yet. But our members will put their job openings on our website first before LinkedIn or Indeed. So please know that the opportunities are here. You have support systems like me, you have Aaron, you have Matt, you have Kay. please feel encouraged to reach out to any one of us. Our contact information is available. We want you here. And we have resources, and we're not perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but know that we're working hard for you, and we're working hard to bring better patient outcomes to the market faster, and we need you to do it. With that said, let's close with something fun. We're going to do a speed round. Matt, if you could tell and speak directly to the HBCU students, the alumni, on why they should not only just consider Boston, but why should they also consider your organization?
Okay. Well,
it's something fun.
Yeah, no, I think so. Yeah, no, I think some of it is a lot of the things that we've already talked about Boston, about the ecosystem. There's just goodness across this entire industry, whether it's Thermo Fisher or Nimbus or Alexion, and I do, without sounding a little bit over Pollyanna-ish about this, but there's amazing work that's being done in the life sciences industry. And when you step back and think about sort of the impact that all of these companies can have on patients and their lives, it's amazing. And we're no different. We're right there with other companies that are doing what I think is some amazing work on behalf of patients, particularly in the rare disease space. Something fun is, I think, organizations, so we are growing, a lot of it is being driven by R&D. Like many companies are looking to develop our clinical development pipeline if you're in the biopharma space, but that's not to say that the growth is exclusively in R&D, because you can't grow R&D in a vacuum. You have to grow everything else around it as well. And so there are an amazing set of opportunities that exist within the Boston area across all those different dimensions. There's the flexibility. There's so many of the things that we've learned as an organization over the course of the past, let's call it 7 or 8 months, some of which we've talked about here today. I think that, Alexion has this amazing future in front of us. We aspirationally have the opportunity to launch 10 drugs over the course of the next 3 years. And the nature of drug development is that the odds are that not all 10 of those things are going to be positive. We obviously, fingers crossed on behalf of the patients that they are, but the likelihood that they are is not high. But because of that, there's a lot of opportunity. So if we think about the growth trajectory, you just no shortage of opportunity. And I think for us, there's a humility that now exists within the organization, particularly over the course of the past years, not just driven by the pandemic or driven by events of global events over the last few months. But I think there really is a humility. And that's one of the things that I really appreciate. It's something that's really important to me. I think it's more sort of just suits my preferences, but I do think about when I look around and sort of the people that I get to be surrounded by on a daily basis, there's a like-mindedness there, around, just the goodness that's happening, the humility, the impact that we can have. And frankly, people just rally around growth. I mean, it's hard, it's fast-paced, it's never-ending, which is amazing, but people rally around it. It's exciting to be a part of it. So for those reasons, if somebody's interested in Alexion and rare disease and across all of the different opportunities that we have, we are not Thermo Fisher, but globally, I would say that we probably have 400 openings right now, and that's likely to continue in the near term. So I would obviously encourage anybody to connect with me directly, but certainly to check out our website at alexion.com. So.
Okay. Well, Aaron, seeing that Nimbus has a fabulous chief executive officer with Jeb, and I heard the rumor mill that they brought on a very fabulous chief people officer. So outside of those two facts, why should people take a look at Nimbus for anchoring themselves here in the Boston area?
Yeah, I mean, I would say Nimbus just has a fabulous leadership team generally, which is one of the things that attracted me to Nimbus. And it's a diverse leadership team too. And I think that's really important because that's how you kind of expand your pool of candidates, because people want to be part of that. Like Matt said, I mean, it is incredible it's kind of like best case scenario if you think about it. I mean, at Nimbus, we have a lot of fun, and people are extremely passionate. People are extremely committed to the programs and to each other. So you get to do literally life-changing work. We're working on oncology and autoimmune diseases and things that change people's lives, and in some cases save people's lives. And you get to do that in a really just fun, fast-paced, as Matt said. I mean, drug development is just fast-paced, right? But it's high risk, high reward. It's that play hard, work hard kind of mantra. And to be able to build your career in a place like that, whether it's at Nimbus or other similar type companies in the industry, is just, it's unparalleled from my perspective, from a career perspective.
Excellent. Well, I'm kind of biased. I work with this wonderful senior director of global talent acquisition at Thermo Fisher, but I'm going to remove my bias and ask Kay, why should people select Thermo Fisher?
You know, we serve about 1 million patients a day, and that alone makes me really excited about the company. At one site, we have we're producing over 27 life-saving drugs. I mean, like, who gets to live that life? But the thing that I got to tell you that, and I've been with the company 2.5 years. This was the most amazing thing. Back when when pandemic hit and everything was shutting down, we literally didn't know what our business was going to look like across Thermo Fisher in the next year. Our CEO came on and asked every one of us to take a rollback in compensation. And rather than get rid of a bunch of people and lay off folks, he said he made the request for us to take a reduction in compensation. He got off that town hall, not a single thing was said. Everybody just did it. We just did it. And so when we found out all was going to be okay, not only did we get our merit payback, we get our compensation rollback reimbursed, he also provided a bonus. And because he saw how things were going. And it was that one for all and all for one, that it's not, you know, of course it's about the patient and the well-being of the patient, but it's also about the employees. What can we do to pull us all together and keep moving forward? Because we've got a job to do. People are waiting on us. And that alone made me a huge, huge fan of this company, notwithstanding all the many times that our CEO is on Kramer. So if you want to see something fun, see our CEO when he's on Mad Men. I think it's Mad Money with Jim Kramer. It's just fascinating. They'll love it. They'll become a fan too. So to that end, that's what I say, you know, that he looks to all of us to come together to keep the company going. And I love that.
Well, I would like to just end by saying that we're not perfect, again, but you're not alone once you come here. We have the Color Biotech, we have Latinos in Bio, we have so many support systems as well as communities here to welcome you and help navigate you through the waters of any type of trial, tribulations, where to live, where to go to school, anything. So please turn to us, lean to us, and we're here to support you. We want you, we need you here. You can go to any other industry, and there are so many blessings and benefits in working in banking, consumer goods, and finance. But when you come to Massachusetts and our life sciences ecosystem, you're making medicine. You're improving the quality of life for billions of people around the world. And we want you to be proud of that, and we want you here. And thank you for joining us. I'm Edie Stringfellow, I'm the director of Massachusetts Biotechnology Council's Diversity and Inclusion, and I'm here for you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.